Around 117 billion people have walked this earth throughout human history, but there have only been 24 people who became a UFC heavyweight champion. So the probability of a human becoming UFC champion is 0.0000002. And this becomes even crazier and more unlikely when you consider that one guy made it from homelessness all the way up to UFC champion. He had no money, no papers, no language. This is the story of Francis Ngannou. He was born in Bati, Cameroon, and he was born to extreme poverty, and he had to work in sand mines at the age of 10. Mind you, sand is one of the most abundant resources in the world, but Francis Ngannou at a young age still had to work in a sand mine. It was tough manual labor daily, but young Francis had other dreams and ambitions.
Work cut out with Mike Tyson. Oh, the right hand! I doubt if he'll be able.
He saw Mike Tyson fight, and he wanted to do the same thing. He wanted to be a boxer, he also wanted to fight, he wanted to get his family out of poverty, but the problem is his family was not cooperating. They were pressuring him to work, but Francis felt trapped, and he was not gonna let them stunt his dream. At age 26, Francis Ngannou finally had enough and mustered up the courage to leave Cameroon with just one goal, and that was to fight. He had no money and he had to take a dangerous route through Africa. He had to go through the Sahara Desert, and when he was caught in Morocco, the border patrols wouldn't just send him back to Cameroon or would take him in or put him in jail. They would actually release him straight into the Sahara Desert, basically leaving him to die. The Sahara Desert is extremely cruel. Even if you come prepared, it's very hard to survive there. Francis Ngannou, the man who had nothing, was left to die in the Sahara Desert by a border patrol at 26 years of age. Mind you, at 26, Conor McGregor had already knocked out Jose Aldo. John Jones had defeated DC and gotten his 8th title defense. Max Holloway had beaten Jose Aldo twice, just beat Brian Ortega, and already had his 19th fight in the UFC. These guys were making history. These guys were fighting Hall of Famers, legendary figures. Francis Ngannou was fighting dehydration, hunger, and fatigue.
At times drinking water that had dead animals inside the water.
Yeah, when we first crossed the desert, there was dead animals, everything was inside the water. I drink the water, and if he has to kill me, he kill me later, or I just die now by dehydration.
But after a lot of adversity, arrests, and stays in prison cells, Francis Ngannou finally made it to France. After he arrived in France, he had no legal status, no language, he had to sleep outside, he had to sleep in parking garages, he had to sleep in homeless shelters, and he had cold nights, he barely had any food, and training was impossible for him. Most humans at this point would have given up, but not Francis Ngannou. He still came to France with one goal, and that was to fight. Eventually he found a boxing gym, but one of the coaches introduced him to MMA because it was much easier to get into. You could also get into it much later than you could get into boxing. He first started training at MMA Factory with Fernand Lopez, and immediately everyone noticed his raw power. Despite barely having any food, starving all the way from Africa to France, this guy's power was still unmatched.
I think the hardest I've ever been hit in the gym by what's that beast name from France that just, I want to say Francis or something like that, the dude that just did a Gamora. And the first day we trained together when I came in the gym, hey, that buddy can hit. He can hit. I respected him before. I respected him more after the hit. He hit me, and he hit me square in my nose, and I'm glad he did great.
He had zero experience and he had to learn all the basics at 26 years of age. But he already was a physical freak, and the coaches just took their chance with him because why not? He had nothing to lose and neither did the coaches. So then came his first amateur fights and his first knockouts, as to be expected. Then he made his UFC debut and immediately knockout after knockout after knockout.
Uppercut.
He's done. That's it.
They bring in guys.
Ngannou knocks Arlovsky down.
Nobody knew this guy, nobody even knew how to pronounce his name, but matter of fact is, this guy was big, he was massive, he was intimidating, and he was knocking people out in the first round.
To try to get a matchup with Ngannou. Down goes the Reeve.
This basically fast-tracked him to becoming a title contender. This is essentially where Francis Ngannou made it. He got to fight Stipe Miocic, the champion. He came all the way from fighting for his life in Africa to now fighting for a title against Stipe Miocic, the untouchable UFC heavyweight champion. No matter if Francis wins this fight or not, he has secured money, he has secured shelter, he's secured safety. He's not from the same world as John Jones, for example, who is all about legacy. No, this guy is about living life. And in his fight against Stipe Miocic, he started off really well in the first round. He really hurt Stipe. However, Francis Ngannou was still a bit of a rookie, not really prepared for Stipe. He didn't have the gas tank, he didn't have the grappling, he underestimated him, and he also didn't have the experience. So Stipe Miocic switched his approach after a bad first round and dominated Francis Ngannou with superior grappling, securing most rounds and easily cruising to a decision. Now this left Francis Ngannou in a hole. After that he came back and fought Derrick Lewis, but he wasn't really the same, he wasn't really the Francis Ngannou we know. He was left being timid and gun-shy. However, Francis eventually came back with knockouts over fighters such as Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez, Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and this eventually earned him another shot at Stipe Miocic. This time he was entering the Stipe fight as a big favorite, and he immediately proved those odds right by dropping Stipe bad and then knocking him out even worse.
He's big opening.
Oh, knockdown for Ngannou. Nice counter right from Miocic, who is now down and out. Francis Ngannou can finally call himself the greatest heavyweight in the world.
This victory led to him finally becoming champion, and then he defended his title against Frenchman Cyril Gane, who was also his former training partner. He also beat him, then left for the PFL, made big money, got to fulfill his dreams of fighting in boxing. If you ask Francis Ngannou back in Cameroon at 10 years old working with physical labor, he made it, no matter what Dana White says or what any UFC fan says. Francis Ngannou is an inspiration worldwide. He showed us the power of belief, of dreaming. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of Francis Ngannou.